You need to hear the truth. Those were the words that changed everything, whispered by a 22-year-old housekeeper named Maya as I stood in the laundry room of the Magnolia Rose Inn, folding sheets that still smelled of the lavender sachets I'd personally selected 3 years ago when this boutique hotel was nothing but a dream David and I shared. Now it was his empire, and I was just another worker in an ugly gray uniform, invisible to the guests who once knew me as the owner. The air conditioning in the laundry room was broken again. I'd made a note to fix it last month when I still had the authority to make decisions, but now it was just another detail David's mother Caroline had deemed unnecessary spending. Sweat dripped down my back as I loaded the industrial washing machine, my hands red and raw from the harsh detergent. This wasn't how I imagined my life would turn out at 38. 3 months ago, I was Julia Martinez, co-owner of Charleston's most charming boutique hotel, featured in Southern Living magazine, recommended by every wedding planner in South Carolina. David and I had transformed a crumbling historic mansion into something magical. I handled guest relations, design, marketing. He managed operations and finances. Or, so I thought. Then came the audit Caroline insisted on, the one that somehow found discrepancies in the accounts I never touched. The emergency board meeting where David sat silent while his mother presented evidence that I'd been embezzling funds. The lawyer who told me fighting would cost more than I had and drag my 7-year-old daughter Emma through a public nightmare. The divorce papers that left me with nothing but debt and David with full custody pending my rehabilitation. I should have fought harder. Should have questioned why David never met my eyes during that meeting. Should have wondered why Caroline had suddenly taken such an interest in our finances after 3 years of hands-off investing. But I was drowning, and when you're drowning, you grab at anything that promises air. The deal they offered seemed like mercy then. Sign over my shares, accept the divorce, agree to supervised visitation with Emma, and they wouldn't press criminal charges. They'd even give me a job at the hotel so I could prove my character and work toward getting my daughter back. What they didn't mention was that the job would be in housekeeping, that I'd be cleaning toilets in the suites I'd designed, that I'd be invisible to everyone who used to respect me. Maya found me crying in the linen closet on my second day. I'd just cleaned the honeymoon suite where David had proposed to me 8 years ago, and something inside me had broken. She was supposed to be training me, this girl barely out of college with kind eyes and hands that never stopped moving. "Mrs. Martinez," she'd said softly, not using the Miss Carter they'd told everyone to call me now that I'd been forced back to my maiden name. "I'm so sorry." I wiped my eyes, ashamed. "It's fine. I'm fine." "No," she said, "you're not. And you shouldn't have to be." I didn't understand what she meant then. Not until today, 4 weeks into my new life as Charleston's most educated laundry worker, when she grabbed my arm as I passed the supply closet and pulled me inside. "You need to hear the truth," Maya whispered, glancing at the door. "Tonight, after the last guest check-in, hide in the manager's office. Behind the credenza, Mr. Martinez and his mother have a meeting scheduled with someone, and I think you need to hear what they're planning." "Maya, I can't." "Please," she interrupted, her voice urgent. "I've been working here for 2 years. I've seen things, heard things. They're not who you think they are." The supply closet smelled like bleach and false promises, but something in Maya's eyes made me nod. That night, I told my supervisor I needed to finish an extra load of towels, waited until the hotel quieted to its evening rhythm of soft jazz in the lobby and low conversations in the bar, slipped into what used to be my office when no one was looking. The credenza was solid mahogany, one of the antique pieces I'd found at an estate sale. I wedged myself behind it, my heart hammering so loud I was sure they'd hear it when they entered. The office looked different from this angle, smaller. David had removed all my photographs, replaced my botanical prints with generic hotel art. Even my desk, the one my father had given me when I graduated business school, was gone. I heard them before I saw them. Caroline's sharp heels clicking on the hardwood floor, David's heavier footsteps, and a third person I didn't recognize. "Right on time, Mr. Volkov," Caroline said, and my blood went cold. Volkov. I knew that name from the news. Russian businessman with alleged ties to organized crime, though nothing had ever been proven. "Mrs. Sinclair, always a pleasure," a voice with a thick accent replied. And David, The hotel looks perfect for our purposes. I risked a peek through the gap between the credenza and the wall, saw Volkov, younger than I expected, well-dressed, with cold eyes that catalogued everything, Caroline in her designer suit, perfectly coiffed, and David, my David, looking more comfortable than I'd seen him in years. "The renovations to the basement are complete," David said, pulling out blueprints I'd never seen. 6 soundproof rooms, all with separate entrances from the service alley. Security cameras on a closed loop that overwrites every 12 hours. Cash businesses on the first floor that can process transactions without raising flags. "And the previous owner?" Volkov asked. Caroline laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Taken care of. Julia was always too idealistic, too focused on her guest experience and authentic Southern hospitality. She never understood that this hotel's real value wasn't in its charm." "She suspected nothing?" Volkov pressed. "Nothing," David confirmed, and the casual way he said it made my stomach turn. "I married her for her trust fund and her name. The Martinez family opened doors in Charleston that the Sinclairs never could. Once I had the hotel established, she became a liability." "And the child?" Volkov asked. My breath stopped. "Emma's useful leverage," Caroline said smoothly. "Julia won't cause problems as long as she thinks she can earn her daughter back, and if she does become a problem, well, there are ways to handle that. A woman who embezzled from her own business, struggling with financial stress, tragic accidents happen. They were talking about killing me, about using my daughter as collateral, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but press my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. The first shipment arrives Tuesday," Volkov continued, "and they moved on to logistics I barely heard through the roaring in my ears. Payments and schedules and coded language that made it clear the Magnolia Rose Inn wasn't just being used for money laundering. It was something worse. I don't know how long I stayed behind that credenza after they left. Long enough for my legs to cramp, for my mind to cycle through denial and anger and terror. Long enough to understand that everything I thought I knew was a lie. Maya found me there at midnight, shaking and unable to stand. "I'm sorry," she said, helping me up. "I'm so sorry. But you needed to know." "How long?" I asked. "How long have you known?" 6 months, she admitted. "I accidentally walked in on a meeting I wasn't supposed to see, Mr. Martinez said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I was deported." She pulled up her sleeve, showed me a bruise shaped like fingers. He wasn't gentle about it. Maya was from Colombia, here on a work visa. David knew exactly how to keep her silent. "Why are you helping me now?" I asked. "Because I have a little sister Emma's age back home," she said simply. "And because you were always kind to me. You remembered my birthday, asked about my family. You saw me as a person, not just a worker. When they threw you away like garbage, I knew I had to do something." We sat in that office until 2 in the morning, making a plan. Maya had been documenting everything she could, taking photos of documents with her phone, noting dates and times of suspicious meetings. She'd been too afraid to go to the police because she didn't know who might be on Volkov's payroll in a city where money talked. "But you could," she said. "You're Julia Martinez. Your family has been in Charleston for 4 generations. People would listen to you." "I have no proof," I said. "I have nothing." They made sure of that. "Then we get proof," Maya said. "Real proof. The kind they can't ignore." Over the next 2 weeks, I became a spy in my own hotel. I cleaned rooms and folded towels and acted like the broken woman everyone expected to see. But at night, after my shifts, Maya and I searched for evidence. We found the offshore accounts David had opened in my name, the ones showing transfers to offshore accounts I'd never authorized. We found the shell companies Caroline had set up, each one a layer in a complex scheme that funneled money through the hotel. We found the basement rooms they'd built, equipped with restraints and soundproofing that made my skin crawl thinking about what they were for. I wanted to run straight to the police, but Maya stopped me. "We need something concrete," she insisted. "Something that ties them directly to specific crimes. Otherwise, it's just our word against theirs, and who do you think they'll believe? The respected businessman and his mother? Or the woman convicted of embezzlement and her undocumented employee?" She was right. I hated it, but she was right. The break came 3 weeks after that first night in the office. Maya overheard Caroline on the phone setting up a meeting for the following Tuesday. Not just any meeting, but one where they'd be exchanging physical evidence, documents that would prove the full scope of their operation. "They're getting sloppy," Maya said. "Or confident. Either way, if we can record that meeting, photograph those documents, we'd have everything we need." Tuesday was Emma's 8th birthday. David had promised her a party at the hotel, one I wasn't invited to. The thought of my daughter celebrating in a building being used for God knew what criminal activities made me physically ill. I had to make a choice: gather evidence at the meeting or try to get Emma out of there first. "Both," Maya said firmly. "We do both. I'll get the evidence. You get Emma." "Maya, if they catch you?" "They won't," she said with more confidence than I felt. "I'm invisible, remember? Just another housekeeper. But you're her mother. You have a right to see your daughter on her birthday, supervised visit or not. Make a scene. Be the crazy ex-wife. Keep everyone's attention on you while I work." It wasn't a good plan. It was full of holes and dependent on too many things going right, but it was the only plan we had. Tuesday arrived cold and gray, autumn rain turning Charleston's charming streets into something ominous. I dressed carefully, not in my housekeeping uniform, but in the cream silk blouse and tailored pants I'd worn to important meetings in my old life. I pinned back my hair, put on lipstick, and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror of the tiny apartment I could barely afford. "You can do this," I told my reflection. "For Emma, you can do this." The hotel was decorated for Emma's party, pink balloons and a banner that said, "Happy Birthday, Princess." My heart broke seeing it. I'd always done her parties myself, personal touches that made her feel special. This was Caroline's work, expensive and impersonal. I walked in through the front entrance, not the service door I'd been using. The desk clerk, a young man who used to call me Mrs. Martinez, looked up in surprise. "I'm here to see my daughter," I said loudly enough for the lobby to hear. "It's her birthday." "Ma'am, I don't care what you think," I said, channeling every ounce of righteous anger I'd been suppressing for months. "That's my daughter, and I have a right to see her." David appeared from his office, face flushed. "Julia, you need to leave." "No," I said. "I won't leave. Not until I see Emma." "You're violating the custody agreement," Caroline said, materializing beside him. "We can have you arrested." "Then arrest me," I said. "Call the police. Let them come. Let's have this conversation in public, shall we? Let's talk about how you've kept me from my daughter, how you've taken everything from me, how this hotel—" "Lower your voice," David hissed. But I didn't. I raised it, made a scene, drew attention, exactly as planned. Guests stopped to stare. Staff gathered, and somewhere in the confusion, Maya slipped away to do what needed to be done. Emma came running from the private dining room, face lighting up when she saw me. "Mommy!" She crashed into me, and I held her tight, breathing in her shampoo smell, feeling her solid warmth. "My daughter, my reason for everything. Happy birthday, baby," I whispered. "I miss you," she said into my shirt. "When can you come home?" David tried to pull her away, but she clung to me, and for a moment I was terrified he'd hurt her trying to separate us. But there were too many witnesses, too many phone cameras potentially recording. "Emma, sweetie, we talked about this," Caroline said in that sticky sweet voice she used with children. "Mommy's not well yet. She needs more time." "That's not true," I said, looking my daughter in the eyes. "I'm perfectly well, and very soon things are going to be different. Better, I promise you." "Don't make promises you can't keep," David said coldly. "I always keep my promises," I replied. Unlike some people, we were at a standoff, Emma between us, when Maya's voice crackled over the hotel's PA system. "Attention guests and staff, this is an emergency announcement. Please evacuate the building immediately. This is not a drill." Chaos erupted. Fire alarms began blaring. People moved toward exits, and in the confusion, Maya appeared at my elbow, breathless, pressing a USB drive into my hand. "Got it," she whispered. "Everything. Go." I pulled the fire alarm to get everyone out. "The meeting's in the basement. They're probably trying to hide evidence right now. But it's too late. I recorded everything. Get Emma and run." "Maya." "Go," she said. I'll be fine. You won't be if you stay. She was right. I could see David scanning the crowd, looking for me, face murderous. I scooped Emma up despite her protests that she was too big to be carried, and I ran. Ran through the service corridors I knew by heart, past the laundry room where I'd folded so many sheets, out the back door into the rain. My car was parked 2 blocks away, and I ran the whole distance, Emma asking questions I couldn't answer. I drove straight to the police station, walked in soaking wet with my daughter on my hip and a USB drive clutched in my hand, and asked for the FBI. What followed were the longest 2 hours of my life. Emma sat with a victim advocate eating cookies while I spilled everything to 2 federal agents. Showed them the drive Maya had risked everything to get. Told them about the offshore accounts, the basement rooms, the meeting with Volkov. "Mrs. Martinez," one agent said carefully, "these are serious allegations. We'll need time to verify." "Verify faster," I said, "because my ex-husband knows I was there today, knows I disrupted his meeting, and I have no doubt he's figuring out right now that it wasn't just a coincidence." I was right. By the time agents raided the Magnolia Rose Inn that evening, David and Caroline had tried to wipe the computers, burn documents, sanitize the basement rooms. But Maya's recording was clear. Her photos were damning. And when they dug deeper, they found everything. Years of fraud and worse crimes I still don't like to think about. Volkov was picked up trying to board a private jet to Moscow. Caroline broke during interrogation, trying to bargain by blaming everything on David. David tried to claim I'd framed him, that I'd fabricated evidence in a vindictive scheme, but the paper trail was too solid. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of depositions and testimony and Emma asking questions I tried to answer honestly without scarring her. 8 months of living in a safe house because there were threats. 8 months of Maya and I becoming family in the way that people who survive impossible things together do. When the verdict came down, guilty on all counts for both David and Caroline, I cried in the courthouse bathroom for 20 minutes, not because I was happy, though I was, but because I was free. The civil case was faster. With the criminal convictions, reclaiming my stolen assets was straightforward. The hotel, the accounts, everything Caroline and David had taken came back to me. More than that, I got Emma full-time. No more supervised visits. No more explaining why Daddy was in prison. I could have sold the Magnolia Rose Inn. Should have, probably. But it had been my dream before it was his weapon, and I couldn't let him take that from me too. Maya is the assistant manager now, with a work visa I personally sponsored and a salary that reflects her worth. We gutted the basement, turned those horrible rooms into a state-of-the-art spa. We renovated the whole hotel, erasing every trace of David and Caroline's presence. The hotel is thriving again, featured in magazines for all the right reasons. I hired a staff that includes other women who needed second chances, people who were underestimated and invisible. We see each other now. Emma's doing well. She's in therapy, processing everything, but she's resilient. She knows her mother fought for her, never stopped fighting, and I think that matters. Sometimes guests ask about the hotel's history, about the trial that made news. I tell them the truth, that beautiful things can be corrupted, but they can also be reclaimed, that you're never too broken to rebuild. That justice isn't always swift, but it's worth fighting for. And I tell them about Maya, who risked everything to whisper 4 words in a laundry room. You need to hear the truth. Those words saved my life. They gave me back my daughter, my business, my future. They taught me that allies can come from unexpected places, that you don't have to stay silent, and that the truth, however painful, is always better than a comfortable lie. The Magnolia Rose Inn still smells like lavender. The air conditioning in the laundry room works perfectly now, and when I walk through these halls, I'm not invisible anymore. I'm Julia Martinez, owner, mother, survivor, and I made good on every promise I made to my daughter that rainy Tuesday afternoon. Things are different now. Better, just like I promised.